In chapter 1212, Mike persuades his grandfather, old Mr. Hunt, to settle the disagreement over the contested home with Serenity and Liberty. Serenity decides to negotiate rather than file a drawn out lawsuit. The family meets in a separate room at the Wilston Hotel an hour later to talk about the situation. While old Mr. Hunt calls his preferred grandson John to attend the conversation, Liberty takes Sonia along. John understands that their activities against Serenity have backfired, especially after finding out that Serenity previously tested their youngest cousin's DNA with old Mr. Hunt. The Hunts scheme to have Harriet receive plastic surgery to make her seem like Serenity has likewise failed. The Hunt family is aware of how small they are in comparison to the powerful York family, especially in light of the Yorks' broad-based support. The Hunts' attempts to intimidate Serenity and Liberty were ineffective since the young men of the York family enjoyed high standing in Wilkespoon. The sisters now have strong supporters, but even without help, their resolve would push them to file a lawsuit. Mike gives Serenity and Liberty two choices. The first is to mutually agree upon a price for the sale of the house their parents left behind to the Hunt family. Alternately, the Hunts could pay old Mr. Hunt and Mrs. Hunt money in exchange for them giving up their claim to the estate. The grandparents might stay there until they pass away, and after that, the house would belong to Serenity and Liberty. Because they wouldn't let old Mr. and Mrs. Hunt stay in their own villas, the Hunts prefer this arrangement. Their choice is influenced by disagreements between their wives and old Mrs. Hunt, worries about personal cleanliness, and probably property damage. Serenity points out that her parents looked after the health and general welfare of their grandparents while they were still living. She makes a point of saying that old Mr. and Mrs. Hunt received the insurance settlement following her father's passing as payment for the cost incurred in raising him. Serenity confesses that while the rest of the family is financially secure and content in self-built villas, her parents are no longer around to care for their grandparents. She wonders why old Mr. and Mrs. Hunt don't let their own children take them. She does, however, consent to let them remain in the home. Serenity informs the Hunts that an agreement was made more than 10 years ago, saying that she and Liberty would not be responsible for their grandparents' support while they were living or any debts following their passing. She contends that if the grandparents stay in their home, they should receive some sort of payment. Serenity claims that despite her desire to avoid being petty, the Hunt's bullying tactics against her and her sister have pushed her to defend their rights. The chapter finishes with the talks still continuing on and the parties trying to reach an agreement.